welcome to the show. Just so you know, this is Two Guys into Fridays. Travis and I have been watching all of TGIF exactly as it airs 30 years after it airs. So whatever happened to air 30 years ago this week, those are the shows that we watch, and then we talk about it every week. And Perfect Strangers has been a very big part of this show for a couple years now.
Since day one.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. What season is currently on? And
So are we like at the end of season 7, Travis? Is that right?
So it's a little weird. So technically season 7 is this year. We watched the first half. I don't know if you remember, Rebecca, but the first half was on TGIF and then they changed it to Saturday nights about halfway through. So we are actually rewatching the episodes that aired on Saturday nights, kind of on our off weeks. So we're about halfway through season 7.
I don't think we were ever on Saturday night.
Well, they moved it off of Friday nights about halfway through season 7. And then you came back to Friday nights, summer of 93 to finish out that short season of season 8.
Yeah, it was like a weird thing where they had like 4 shows on Saturday. What were the other ones? Do you remember, Travis? It was like...
it was Herman's Head, Capital Critters, and who's the boss? One of those...
Yeah, so they only did it for like half a season, and then they brought you guys back to TGIF.
Season 8.
Yeah, they brought in a couple like different shows on TGIF, and then they were like, "All right, let's bring Perfect Strangers back to finish it up," and then you guys finished it out on Friday nights.
Yep.
Rebecca's
I do not remember ever being on Saturday. We started off on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It was a back and forth thing for a little bit, but yeah, I mean, we'd love to talk to you about it and see what you remember about it. Do you remember, like, as far back as auditioning for the show, like, what it was about Perfect Strangers, or did you know the show before you auditioned coming in season 2?
No, it hadn't even, I don't think it had even aired yet.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering about that. So,
yeah, 'cause they did 6 shows to test it, and I don't think it had aired yet. And it was just Melanie and I went in for a guest part. We were only supposed to be there 1 week.
Yeah, that was the other thing I was going to ask.
Like, week of my life.
What did you know? Like, apparently you didn't know that you were going to end up marrying Balky at the end of this whole thing. Like, you thought it was just going to be a few episodes?
No, it was supposed to be one episode.
Oh, wow.
One episode. And I went to the audition. It was the year I had the flu all during winter. I just couldn't knock it. Finally felt better I think the audition was in June. So it was the first time I'd gone out in a while. And I went to audition and they handed me the sides, and I was auditioning for the role of Rachel. And but I had to read the role of Jennifer. And I said, on the back page, I saw this one line for Rachel that just was, "Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm a Sagittarius." And then Balky says, "Hi, I'm Balky. I'm a Bartakamus." And at the time, I didn't know his accent or any of that stuff. But I saw that one line, and I was said to the casting director, I said, I want this part, whatever this is. I think she's probably going to be funny. And she said, "Oh, well, we're casting both females from just reading Jennifer." And I was like, but Jennifer was the straight character. So I said, all right. So I read for her, and then they brought me back for the producers, and I read again for Jennifer. And I remember later I asked them, I said, how did you even decide that I would be good for Rachel / Marianne? And they said, "Oh, we could just tell you were funny." I have no idea how that ever translated, but I saw Melanie at the audition, and then the first table reading after I'd been hired, she wasn't there. It wasn't her. It was this brunette gal, very, very pretty girl. And she was Jennifer. And I was very nervous, and my part didn't come up until after hers, when she goes into the Ritz discount store and meets Larry for the first time. So when she started reading, I was a little bit thrown. I was like, are we supposed to do it that way? That doesn't seem right. And I just remember And now, later, of course, know Bronson so well. I just remember Bronson looking up at her and going, like that. In future times, I would know, you're fired, bye-bye. But at that time, I didn't know that's what that meant. But yeah, so we were sent to lunch and she was gone.
Wow.
And then we were sent home. And then apparently they brought in a whole bunch of Jennifers again and finally hired Melanie. And Melanie said she was at home painting her kitchen thinking, well, I know that's my part. Why haven't they called yet? So the next morning was frightening.
Yeah, I guess in 2020 hindsight, a lot of people knew what they were doing because it worked out pretty perfect. So
yeah, it worked out. I met her when I was in wardrobe having a fitting, and the mirror was on the door, and she opened the door, and we were both looking at each other, and we're like, well, somebody got fired. Yeah.
So
we knew.
This was all just for that guest episode. Like, what was it like when they were like, "Hey, we want you guys to come back. We think this character has a little more to it."
Oh, well, it was funny because they already had a certain amount of scripts already prepped that we weren't, of course, in. But they decided after our episode that they were going to bring us back. So it was, I don't remember the timing, maybe a month or two later, but they had called shortly after because Melanie and I were on the phone together. And at the same time, we both got calls from our agents. So we hung up on each other and then called each other back and said, oh my God, they're bringing us back. That's just crazy. So.
Do you think any of the added on episodes had anything to do with you playing a flight attendant before in a couple roles? I did some research and it looked like this was the third time that you had been a flight attendant on TV or on movies. Just a coincidence, or do you think there was something to it?
It was a coincidence. It was really weird. I think it was the casting director, Molly Lapata. She kept on hiring me for great shows. She did like Newhart and flight attendant on Newhart. And then I think I was the flight attendant on Remington Steele. I have no idea. Can't remember, but I remember several airplane.
IMDb agrees with you that it was Remington Steele and Newhart. So if that makes you feel any better.
Oh, good. Okay.
So before Perfect Strangers, what were you doing? You were stand up? Is that correct or no? Okay.
No, I've never done stand up. There is a stand up comedian with my name, but she has 2 C's in her name, and apparently she's very raunchy. But I've never ever seen her anywhere. No, before that, I went to school, and the only thing I got out of this one school that I attended was you're not ready to audition. So I wouldn't go on an audition. So I had a job in Manhattan and was going and taking acting classes all the time, but I wouldn't go on an audition. I couldn't do it because I just wasn't ready. And then I was at NYU and I still wouldn't go on an audition. And then finished there and still was working, but not going on an audition. And I had an acting teacher who said I couldn't come back to class till I went on an audition. And I actually ended up on an audition by accident. And that, thank God, or I never would have done anything.
Did you get that role, or was that?
Yes.
You did. Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, congratulations. Good for that teacher. So
what do you think it was about this cast, the 4 of you, that like just clicked? Like, I mean, obviously, you have to have chemistry in a show for it to work out, but there was something different about Perfect Strangers. The 4 of you together, it felt different to me. Like, from all these shows that we're watching, there was something about the 4 of you together that, I don't know, is it just the time that you spent together, or?
I think we were all having so much fun in the beginning that, I know that first week that we were there, after at the end, we shot it Friday night, and in front of an audience, and it was so fun. And it just didn't feel like it was over. But I had no reason to believe that because, when you guest on a show, you go in, you perform, and you love the people, have a great time, and then it's over. and then maybe you'll see them a few years later on something else. But we had such a great time that week. It was really fun. And apparently it had been in the works. They were trying to figure out how to have um, these flight attendants. So they were really on the lookout. They had this in the back of their mind anyway. And just so happened they decided they liked us because they already had Lise Cutter and there was another actress that was in there in those first 5 episodes. I don't remember who she was. She too was a blonde. But in fact, Lise was still there when we started, but she was just the neighbor upstairs. So I don't know. She was never, I don't think, a love interest for either one of them.
Yeah, she definitely was more of like a friend, and they never explored kind of the dating potential there, at least not in the first 6 episodes. So
yeah.
So the show does a lot of the kind of homages and tributes and draws so heavily on that kind of classic comedy. Was that something that you connected with, or did you have kind of a passion for that coming into the show? Or I guess how would you think of those episodes? Did you enjoy that?
Yes, because my whole when I came out to LA, I came out for pilot season. I didn't want to actually come out here. I wanted to stay in New York because I like doing theater.
Okay.
And my whole thing was comedy, and I kept guesting on soap operas as kind of the, comic relief and little comic relief character. So it was finally like my agent made me come out here.
Well, you got to play some fun characters. You got to play. You were Trixie, right, in the Honeymooners episode? And I mean, all of I don't know. Whenever I see any of those kind of real heavy tributes, it's always fun to watch that be brought back to life by you all. So I don't know. It was fun to watch. It is fun to watch.
That was when we shot that Honeymooners episode, we did it live like they did.
Oh wow.
And the deal was keep going no matter what happens. So Melanie and I, you probably wouldn't think of this, but we spent a lot of time behind a door waiting for a red light to go on, and then one of us would knock.
Yeah.
That makes me want to go back and rewatch it knowing that.
We wrote on the set when we our last episode that Melanie Wilson and Rebecca Arthur spent their entire career behind this door. So, but we were behind the door and the scene was going on out there, and all of a sudden we hear this bam, and we hear everybody laughing hysterically. And then it was like a long laugh, like, and we're looking at each other like, what could have happened? What could have happened? But we, usually we would have opened the door and gone, what's going on out here? What happened is Bronson was doing his funny Ed Norton thing, and he slipped and fell flat on his face. And you can see it that 1 minute, Mark just kind of goes like this, like, oh my God. But they stayed in character. And I think Mark says something like, Norton, you're a nut job or something, and pulls him up. And we were looking at each other like, that wasn't in the script. What was that about? So we didn't find out until after our scene because we just kept going. We didn't stop.
That's awesome.
Was that you'll crack
the
up.
final cut?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
There had to have been a lot of ad lib in the show, right? Like just like all of you guys playing off of each other and going off script a little bit.
Well, we did that mostly during the week, and show it to the writers, and then it would end. It either got put into the script or we were told don't do that.
And because you had kind of a tough role in, I guess, when it comes to those script writing, because Marianne was the ditz, but also the kind of savant in many situations. And that fun to play, being able to kind of switch back and forth almost instantaneously at times and kind of find those lines that made sense.
Yeah, one of my favorite ones was when we were in the basement and it was flooding. And I gave him the recipe for a bomb.
Yeah,
we used to summer in Beirut. And probably we can go over well now because nobody really Beirut, but yeah, it was kind of fun.
We just watched the one where Balky and Larry buy the bottle of wine, and you had that moment where where you were psychic and knew where the key was and who the winner of the fertilizer competition was in Mypos. And it reminded me of that. It's the same kind of thing.
Oh,
So.
well, great. I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll see an episode and I'll say to Melanie, "Do you remember this episode?" And she'll say, "No, were we in it?" Yeah, I actually saw us in it, but I don't remember it.
Yeah.
But then some stick out more than others. So
sure. Well, I mean, the basement one is hard to forget with kind of all that. Was there a set? I mean, that was a pretty crazy set, pretty crazy design. Was there? And there were a lot of those sets. Was there a set that you really enjoyed, or was that basement one kind of a real memorable set for you?
well, the basement one was in a tank on the
Right.
lot. So that was kind of, we spent a lot of time wet,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I imagine.
uncomfortable. But
Because there's the one where you were on the mountain with Balky. I don't know, which was probably a fun set.
the mountain, which time? With the snow or the camping?
I'm thinking of the one where is it Larry that's hanging off the side of the mountain and you're the savior of the day. You rescue Balky
Oh,
off
when
the side of the mountain.
when he thinks I'm going to murder,
Yeah,
he thinks
exactly.
I'm the Black Widow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Yes,
A
I
lot of
remember.
fun sets. A lot of fun sets.
Yeah, there definitely were. When we did Snow Way to Treat a Lady, they would do these things, like they would write these scripts and they'd never bother to ask any of us if we knew how to do any of this stuff. Like, for instance, ski. I can't ski to save my life, and neither can Melanie. And they expected us to ski down a carpeted slope on the soundstage. But basically, and then it had like a 5-foot drop off at the end where a stunt man would catch you. That was a tough one. And then another one, they decided that everyone could roller skate except for Larry.
Yep.
So for 2 weeks, we had roller skating lessons because none of us roller skated. I did things like hang by my teeth and spin around, but that was all circus stuff. But once you strap something on my feet, I can't do anything. I have no idea why.
Wait, do you have a circus background?
Well, I do now. I was at the Stars like 4 times.
Was it all
First
trapeze?
concert.
Was it all trapeze on Circus of the Stars, or did they give you more talents?
Sort of, yeah, because the first Bronson did the trapeze. And then I really, really wanted to do the trapeze because I used to be a gymnast. So I was all excited. Nothing like doing gymnastics, though. It was really terrifying. So, but you train for 3 months. So by the time they shoot it, you've become circus folk because you've been living with these people every day, 6 days a week for hours, just learning how to do these crazy stunts. So the first year I did the trapeze. The second year I did the Russian trapeze with a Russian who never showed up until the week of taping, which was terrifying because he was going to stand. Remember that game Tip It, where the little guy would stand on his nose and you try to take that? Maybe not. Maybe I'm dating myself. Anyway, he would stand on his head on a bar that his buddy, what was his name? Valari. He would go up in the air spinning, holding on to me under him while I'm like doing all these, things. And it was terrifying, but we didn't get to practice it until, because with the Russians, it was always, yes, we'll do that, but we need this, but we need that. So that went on for weeks and weeks and weeks. So I would train with the trapeze catcher to learn all the stuff that this guy Yuri would do with his wife on this spinning, swingy thing. And then when he got there, we had to somehow put it together. Of course, I'd never been on the spinny thing, going up in the air, doing all that. Somehow we pulled that off. So that was the second year. The third year, they had me do a routine from Cirque du Soleil, which was another trapeze type thing. And then that was supposed to be it. We were done. I've been on 3 years in a row. With Circus of the Stars, their biggest challenge was finding somebody whose show was still on the air and they could actually, do anything. So then the fourth year, I get a phone call. By this time, I'm good friends with all of the producers. I get a phone call from the producer and he goes, they're going to call you and they're going to ask you to bungee jump. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah. And I'm not going to tell you the big star that backed out of bungee jumping, but it was a guy and he chickened out at the last minute, the week, like it was the day before. And so, I had done this for so many, I was like, sure, I'll do it. And they were going to pay me an obscene amount of money for like one day to jump off of a crane. And I was like, well, all these people are paying money to bungee jump. How bad can it be?
Yeah.
Bad.
Oh, really?
Oh, it was bad. Oh. So I got whiplash because the person they tested the camera shots with was 10 pounds heavier than me. So of course she came down and did this. Well, when I came down, I went, I went back and I was and then they show it in slow motion and you watch, you can just see me like, ow, as I just, like kind of fly around. And then Sherman Helmsley catches me at the bottom.
And then that was the end of your circus career, right?
And I'm in this like very, very sparkly unitard. And I'm with downtown Julie Brown going up on this crane. And I remember when I told everybody at work, Mark was really upset. He goes, you can't do that. It's too scary. 200 feet. You can't do it. You can't do it. And I said, Mark, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And we're on the soundstage. He points up. He said, see that top rafter right there? And I said, yeah. And he goes, that's only 40 feet. I went, oh, that could be a problem.
Oh, man. The 90s were wild. Sherman Hemsley, downtown Julie Brown.
Well, Sherman Helmsley was so freaked out by the time I got down from there. He was just like, oh my God. And downtown Julie Brown lied to me. She told me she'd done it before and it wasn't that bad. And she was just trying to calm me down because by the time they got me up there, I was wrecked. I was like, what am I thinking? Because I was bungee jumping to concrete.
Yeah.
Up a Universal's parking lot. So
it makes for a good story, at least. That's
yeah, well, that's what most people see on YouTube. If they Google me, they see me jumping off that.
I'm going to go watch it after this for sure.
I'm absolutely going to go watch it. So I do want to add, because we're a TGIF show, right? We watch all the TGIF shows. We talk about TGIF. So Perfect Strangers obviously didn't join. Well, it was on TGIF from day one, but that was 5 seasons in for you all. Did you see any kind of change? Anything? I mean, was TGIF a entity that you were like aware of what was going on when the show started to join that lineup?
Well, no, because we kind of started it.
You did, absolutely, right. But did you see any changes from like the viewership or kind of the fans on that when that started?
Like going from season 4 to 5, is that what it was? Like something around there? Yeah.
I don't know. My fans were all men in prison or little girls.
Okay.
So
and that remained throughout the entire run of the show. There was no
pretty much. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Makes sense.
I went from being, when the show first went on, people would look at me and think I looked familiar, and they'd go, "Where'd you go to high school?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, no, I didn't go to high school out here." And then it turned into, you're that girl. What girl? But it would be that girl, And then they went into, and then it was like, oh my God, it's Balky's girlfriend. They didn't know her name or my name, but it was Balky's girlfriend. Then pretty soon it was like, oh my God, it's Marianne. Then they eventually did know my name. And then it all went backwards to back down to, where'd you go to high school? So, that's where I am now. If anybody looks at me, you look really familiar. What school did your kids go to? So.
Are there any episodes that you like to go back and like show friends or show family that maybe have never seen you acting on the show that like are the ones that you pick out? Like, this is like one of my favorite episodes that I did, or this is my proudest moment of being on the show. Are there any that stand out to you?
Not in that sense. A lot of times, like I really enjoyed the camping one because the bear was in it.
Yeah.
The bear was fun. It was fun to have a bear on set. And we had to be so careful because we didn't want, you weren't allowed to have gum or any food on, when the bear was out. Because bears obviously love food. So when we did the camping scene where we're asleep at the campsite and the bear comes walking through, And I think Jennifer says, Marianne, your stomach's growling. And I'm like, really? But when we were rehearsing it, um, I had a piece of gum in my mouth. And we were just blocking for camera, so it didn't matter. And um, I'm laying there with Melanie and we're sleeping. So we don't see that the bear has come over to our heads, which he wasn't supposed to do. But he comes over to our heads because of my gum. So then, they called cut and they come, they were the wrangler got the bear and they came out and they said, do you have something on you? Do you have something in your pockets? And I was like, no. And they're like, you have gum. And I said, I do have gum. Mark comes running up and goes, give me the gum. Give me the gum. Because he wanted the bear to come over to him.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm like, you want my chewed gum? But those sort of things I remember. I remember things that happen on episodes that, I find that were funny. I think Bronson told a story about one time that we were laughing so hard in rehearsal, and he was telling this in an interview, and he said, I peed my pants. The truth was he did. And I mean, we were howling. I can't remember what had happened, but I remember laughing so hard, and then he peed his pants, and that just did us all in. But he accused me of doing that. I would have said if I actually had, but that wasn't me.
Why didn't Balky and Jennifer ever just switch apartments so the two couples could be in the apartments together?
Instead of buying the house?
Well, like early on, I feel like it was like 6 seasons they were together, and like, why didn't they just live together?
Because you cannot believe. I mean, it's been hard in the last 30 years to watch TV and go, really? They let them say that? You can't believe what standards and practices, they would come down on us.
Just because you weren't married or whatever?
Innuendo. No, it would be just innuendo. Little things that were funny that would have been nice to toss in there for mom and dad who's watching with the kids. But they would go, no, you can't say that on TV. Oh, you can't say that. Can't say that at 8:00. Then we moved to 9:00. It's like, can we say it now? No, not so much. So we were kind of, back in those days, they were very, very stringent about what you could and couldn't say on network television.
Yeah, it was always interesting. It's been interesting watching your relationship with Balky, or Marianne's relationship with Balky, and Jennifer's relationship with Mark. God, I shouldn't do that. With Larry, kind of. Sorry, getting all my names mixed up. Develop, because we comment on that a lot. Like, you guys play it very safe and straight throughout a lot of the earlier episodes until the marriage, the engagement, and subsequently moving into the house as opposed to the apartment, and then Jennifer gets a little bit wilder. Larry's still a bit nervous, but it's interesting to watch.
How far into the whole show did you guys kind of find out that, like, what the ending was going to be, like that you guys would eventually like have kids and stuff like that? Was that something that's like, all right, we're going to end up wrapping the show up in the next couple seasons, we need to get to an end? Or did you know that was the end, like, way further out in advance at some point?
Oh, well, we were supposed to do 13 episodes that last season, but then they decided, since we weren't coming back, to just shorten it, I think, to 6, where we had the babies and then stopped it there, because what had happened is the guys' contracts had expired and they didn't want to come back and do it anymore. So that's why it ended up that we just we were done.
Did you know that was the ending though, like earlier, like or was it like the season before you were told that this was going to be how the show ended? Not definitely like when the show would end, but how the show would end. Like, did you know that eventually it would get to that point and that's how the story would end?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I can't remember. I know I knew it was the last season, and how long were we pregnant? It seemed like forever.
Not long, because you're not pregnant yet in season 7. So it hasn't been, it'll probably be less than 10, 15 episodes total when it happens.
It seemed like forever. It must have been a season and a half of up to. I remember we come into work and for rehearsal, and Melanie looked at me and she goes, "Are you going to go get pregnant now?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." Put on our thing that we'd had to wear, and then put our clothes over it.
What do you know about? Go ahead, Travis.
I was going to say, so Marianne was always destined to be with Balky. Was that known from early on in the show, from early seasons, or was there ever any question on that?
I think it was decided at some point that we were always going to be there.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, I honestly don't know.
Sure.
We get picked up 2 seasons. Some in the earlier years, we got picked up 2 years in a row, like for 2 more years of 24, and then I think there were some seasons where we did 26. I get so mad when I see these series now and they only do 10 or 8. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Get to work. I need more shows.
I think last year they announced there's going to be a Perfect Strangers reboot, spin-off, something like that on HBO. Have you been following that at all, or do you know anything about it?
We heard about it. It really has, apparently from what I'm told, has nothing to do with our show.
Yeah, I mean, it seems completely
It has
different.
It's not even related.
Like it's literally the name of the show, and it's 2 girls who find out that they're sisters, and then they kind of have the same relationship as Balky and Larry. That's all I can get so far.
Yeah, I have no idea. I asked Bill Bickley. He and Melanie are married, and he said, "Yeah, that's what they're calling it, but it has nothing to do with our show. It's nothing like our show at all." So I don't know.
Yeah, I think one of the women who plays one of the leads on the show was on the Tonight Show or something talking about it, and they definitely referenced the original, being related somehow, but I think it's just the general idea. I think that's it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what they're going to do, because is it going to be like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Because now they've got
with that
the
reboot,
Prince of Bel-Air. That I haven't seen it, but it's nothing like the original.
Yeah, I think we were originally, when we first started, hoping it was going to be more like the other TGIF reboots,
like Fuller House, stuff like that.
Yeah, the kind of the original cast has their, if they're not on it, has at least kind of some inspiration for it. So, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess they're if they came to see what Balky and Larry and Marianne and Jennifer are doing now.
Well, what do you think? What do you think? What would Marianne be doing now in 2022 if she were still around? What would she be doing?
I think she would probably be running a Fortune 500 club, and Balky would be working at the UN.
Nice.
And let's see, Larry would still be a nervous wreck somewhere.
For still working for the Chronicle, or is he
probably
moved on?
Yeah, he's probably still but I have to make sure everybody is very successful.
Sure.
And I would think that that Jennifer, she would probably be running the airline we used to work on.
Nice. I like it. I think that would make a good show.
Right? Just that would be fun.
It would be.
And I think that Balky and Marianne would have too many children, and Larry and Jennifer would just have one or 2.
Just the one. Cool.
Yeah, just the one, because she said, "We're getting a dog. That's it. We're done." Oh, you haven't seen that episode yet?
We haven't gotten there yet, but
yeah,
we haven't gotten there yet.
So we are just about a year away from the 30-year anniversary of the finale of Perfect Strangers. When was the last time that the 4 of you were together?
The 4 of us, the last time the 4 of us were together was the last night of shooting that show.
Wow.
But 3 of us have been together quite often since. I see Melanie all the time. I'll see her on Saturday. When Mark is in town, I usually see him with Melanie. He has a daughter. I think Ruby is a little bit younger than my youngest. I think so. Yeah, I think she's a little younger than my youngest. One time we're at Melanie's house and all three of the girls, my two and Mark's, were in the pool. They're screaming and Mark keeps jumping up and running over and running over. And I'm like, Mark, what's wrong? And he goes, I don't know. I hear him screaming. I said, honey, if you don't see blood, we're good. Don't worry about him. But he's a very nervous daddy then. But she was little. So
yeah. We're both parents. I think I can agree with that at least. If they're not bleeding, they're fine.
Yeah, they're fine. And as long as they're making noise, they hadn't drowned.
Right.
So
valid point. Very valid.
But no, I haven't seen Bronson. Melanie did arrange a reunion for the four of us once, and he came the night before. So I didn't see him. And
typical Balky.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Arranged some producers had come to him wanting he and Mark to do The Odd Couple. And he said, the only way we'll do it is if you have the girls play the Pigeon Sisters. So these producers were like, okay, but what do they look like now? So we had to send them our pictures so they could make sure we were too old and decrepit. We did. And then they signed contracts with us. And then what did Bron said? He wanted Joel Zwick to direct. And this was in 2013. And he wanted Joel to direct. And I guess Joel didn't get back to them in time or something. But anyway, somehow the whole deal fell through. And, Melanie and I had our bags packed and we're out waiting for the bus because it was going to be a tour, like a national tour.
Was it like a stage show?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, that would have been a blast, the four of us doing that.
It would have been full circle. You've got, The Odd Couple is the movie that's on the marquee in the opening credits, and you bring it back to that original reference. Absolutely.
So unfortunately, it didn't end up going, but we were game. I'm like, sure, we'll do it.
That would have been
so,
fun.
But then, and that was the end of that. We never ended up getting together, and obviously, there's never been a reboot.
Well, I mean, we're almost at 30 years, like we said. I just have to say thank you, Rebecca, for all of the entertainment that you've given us throughout Perfect Strangers, throughout the rest of your career, and with this podcast in general. I mean, like, we've been going back, watching these episodes 30 years later, and they continue to hold up. They continue to be entertaining, and I just want to say thank you to the whole cast, and you included.
Yeah, well, thank you so much.
Where can I see your podcast?
Yeah, we'll send you all that stuff. We'll give you links to everything when we get off.
Yeah, I was curious because I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, it's on all the streaming services. So Apple.
Well, that's Spotify. Because I don't know anything about any podcast. You got to remember I'm on in years. So you have to point me in the direction you want me to go in.
We'll get you there. We'll definitely send you the links to this and to the podcast so that you have them. But yeah, I have to just kind of echo what Steve said. Thank you so much for everything. It's been so much fun to watch you.
I'm glad you guys enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Thanks. Have a great day.